Are you over 60? Have you ever grabbed a lubricant at the drugstore and just picked whatever was closest to the register, hoping for the best? Today, we're talking about the right way to choose and use lubricant after 60. And here's the thing. Most women get at least one part of this wrong, without ever knowing it, simply because nobody ever actually sat down and explained it clearly. Here's what's interesting. There's an actual safety standard that most lubricants on store shelves don't meet. Almost nobody knows this standard even exists. And once you know what to look for, picking the right one takes about 30 seconds, not a whole afternoon of guesswork at the store. I want to tell you about a woman I'll call Carol. She's not one real person. She's a mix of many women I've talked to because, honestly, the same story comes up again and again. Carol is 63. A few years ago, dryness started becoming a real problem for her, gradually at first, then more noticeably. So she did what most of us do. She walked into a drugstore, grabbed a bottle that looked popular, and used it. It was a flavored, warming gel. Within minutes, she felt burning instead of relief. She told me, "I thought lubricant just wasn't for me. I thought my body had some kind of extra sensitivity that made all of this impossible." So she gave up on lubricant completely and just avoided intimacy instead, quietly, without telling anyone why. Here's the part that broke my heart a little. Carol didn't have a sensitivity problem. She had a product problem. The lubricant she grabbed was full of ingredients that irritate exactly the kind of tissue she had. Nobody ever explained that to her. I want to mention one more woman, very quickly. I'll call her Marion. She didn't have a bad reaction like Carol. Her problem was different. She used the same small bottle of lubricant for years, applying it once and pushing through the rest, because that's what she thought using lubricant meant. She told me she just assumed some discomfort was simply part of getting older. It wasn't. She just wasn't using nearly enough, and she didn't know reapplying was completely normal, not a sign that the product had failed. If either of these stories sound familiar, hit subscribe now, because this is exactly the kind of practical, no-nonsense topic this channel covers. You are not the only one who's grabbed the wrong bottle or used too little and quietly assumed it was your body's fault. Let's talk about why this matters so much after 60. Research consistently shows that more than half of postmenopausal women deal with vaginal dryness at some point, and some studies put that number even higher. This isn't rare. It isn't unusual. It's actually closer to the norm. So lubricant isn't some optional extra for a small group of women. For most of us, at some point, it becomes a normal, useful tool, the same way reading glasses become normal once your eyes change. There's nothing to be embarrassed about here. But here's the problem. Most women treat lubricant like one single product. Grab a bottle, use it, done. In reality, there are 3 completely different categories and each one behaves differently on your body. Nobody explains this on the shelf. The packaging just says lubricant, like they're all the same thing. They are not, and using the wrong one for the wrong situation is exactly what happened to Carol. And there's a second issue, the one almost nobody knows about. There's an actual recommended safety standard for lubricants set by major health organizations, covering things like acidity level and ingredient concentration. Most commercial lubricants don't meet it. Some are several times outside the recommended range. That's not me being dramatic. That's just what testing on commercial products has found, again and again. So picking a lubricant isn't really about the brand or the packaging. It's about a few specific things you can actually check yourself in about 30 seconds, right on the label. So let's get into it. Here are 5 simple steps to choose and use lubricant the right way after 60. Step 1. Know the 3 types. Water-based lubricants are the most common. They feel close to your body's own natural moisture, they're easy to clean up, and they're safe with condoms and with almost every kind of toy. The trade-off is that they tend to dry out faster, so you may need to reapply during a longer session, and that's completely normal, not a flaw. Silicone-based lubricants last much longer, they don't dry out, and they're great in the shower or bath, since they don't wash away with water the way water-based formulas do. They're also safe with condoms. But they are not safe with silicone toys, because silicone breaks down silicone over time, which can ruin the toy, sometimes within just a handful of uses. Oil-based lubricants, including things like coconut oil, last the longest of all, and many women like how natural they feel on the skin. But they should never be used with latex condoms, because oil weakens latex and can cause it to tear, and they can also be harder to fully wash off, which sometimes leads to irritation if residue lingers. Step 2. Read the ingredient list, not just the front label. A few ingredients show up again and again as common irritants for sensitive postmenopausal tissue. Glycerin can feed yeast and worsen irritation for some women, especially anyone who already deals with recurring yeast infections. Parabens are preservatives that some women react to with redness or itching over time. Added fragrance and dyes serve no functional purpose at all. They're purely cosmetic, and they're one of the most common causes of irritation in this category of product. Warming and cooling gels often contain ingredients like menthol or capsaicin-related compounds that create that tingling sensation on purpose, and that's often exactly what causes the kind of burning Carol experienced. None of this means you did something wrong if a product ever irritated you. It usually means the product simply wasn't suited for your body, not that your body is somehow overly sensitive or broken. Step 3. Look for the words pH balanced or isotonic. This is the part almost nobody explains. Healthy vaginal tissue has a naturally acidic pH, somewhere between about 3.8 and 4.5. Health authorities recommend lubricants that sit close to that same range. There's also a second number that matters even more, called osmolality. It basically measures how concentrated a liquid is compared to your own tissue. Major health guidelines recommend lubricants stay under 1,200 on this scale, with under 380 considered ideal. Here's the surprising part. Testing on commercial lubricants has repeatedly found that most products on store shelves are far above that range, some of them several times higher than what's recommended. A lubricant that's too concentrated can actually pull moisture out of delicate tissue instead of adding it, which is the exact opposite of what you're trying to do. You don't need to test any of this yourself with equipment. You just need to look for products that specifically mention being pH balanced, isotonic, or formulated to match the body's natural environment. Plenty of simple, inexpensive products meet this standard. You just have to look past the flashy packaging to find them. If you only remember one number from this whole video, remember this. Lower osmolality is better. A simple, boring-looking lubricant that lists its pH and osmolality on the label is almost always a safer bet than an exciting one that lists 6 different sensations on the front. Step 4. Match the lubricant to what you're actually using it with. This is where most mistakes happen. Using oil-based lubricant with latex condoms. Using silicone lubricant with silicone toys. Using a heavily fragranced romantic gel for everyday comfort, when a plain, simple formula would do the job better with far less irritation. It's worth knowing that toys made from softer materials, sometimes labeled TPE or TPR, are just as delicate as silicone toys and react the same way to oil and silicone lubricant. A simple rule of thumb: for condoms, stick to water-based or silicone-based. For silicone, TPE, or TPR toys, stick to water-based only. For everyday comfort with no condoms or toys involved, almost any well-formulated option works, so this is where personal preference matters most. If you genuinely don't know where to start, here's the simplest possible answer. Buy one plain, fragrance-free, pH-balanced water-based lubricant first. It's the safest option across almost every situation, condoms, toys, and everyday use included. You can always add a silicone-based option later for longer sessions or for the shower once you know what works for your body. Step 5. Use more than you think you need. This sounds simple, But it's the step people skip the most. Many women apply a small amount once and stop there. Apply lubricant both externally and internally. Give it a minute to actually absorb and reapply generously rather than pushing through friction and hoping it gets better. Friction without enough lubrication can cause small tears in delicate tissue, which leads to more irritation later, not less, and can even make the next attempt feel worse than it needed to. There's no such thing as using too much. If you find yourself reaching for more halfway through, that's not a sign anything is wrong. That's the product simply doing what it's supposed to do, and your body asking for what it needs. Before the mistakes, let me clear up 2 quick myths I hear constantly. First, needing lubricant doesn't mean something is wrong with you, or that you're not into it enough. It's simply a tissue change that comes with age. The same as needing reading glasses has nothing to do with how much you want to read. Second, lubricant isn't only for moments with a partner. Plenty of women use it daily, simply for comfort while sitting, walking, or exercising, completely separate from intimacy altogether. Before we move on, let me mention 3 small mistakes that keep showing up, even in women who are otherwise doing everything right. First, judging a lubricant after one bad experience with one specific product, instead of trying a different type entirely. One bad bottle isn't a verdict on every option out there. Second, assuming natural automatically means safe. Plenty of natural oils are lovely for your skin and completely wrong for use with condoms or certain toys, simply because of how the materials interact, not because the oil itself is bad. Third, buying based on flashy packaging promises like warming, tingling, or intense, when those added sensations are often exactly what causes irritation in postmenopausal tissue. A plain, boring-looking bottle is very often the better choice, even if it's not the one with the most exciting label on the shelf. Here's the good news about this particular topic. Unlike a lot of the changes we talk about after 60, this one doesn't take weeks to show results. If you switch to the right type, with the right ingredients, at the right pH, you'll typically notice the difference the very first time you use it. No burning, no 2 hours of relief, and then it gets worse. Just comfort, for as long as you need it. Let's go back to Carol for a second. Once she understood that her old lubricant, not her body, had been the actual problem, she tried a simple, unscented, pH-balanced, water-based option. She told me, "I almost cried with relief the first time. It wasn't dramatic. It just finally felt normal again." She still keeps a silicone-based option in her nightstand for longer evenings, and she's never gone back to anything with added fragrance or warming gimmicks since. And Marion, once she realized reapplying wasn't a failure, just started keeping the bottle within reach instead of putting it away after one use. She told me it changed more than she expected, simply because she stopped quietly gritting her teeth through discomfort that didn't need to be there at all. So here's what I want you to do. If you've been avoiding intimacy because of one bad experience with one bottle, please don't let that one experience be the final word. Check the ingredient label on whatever you currently have at home. If you see glycerin, parabens, added fragrance, or warming and cooling agents near the top of the list, that may be exactly what's been causing the irritation, not your body. Leave a comment letting me know which type you've tried, water-based, silicone-based, or oil-based, and what your experience has been. Reading other women's experiences in the comments often helps more than any single product recommendation ever could. And if this video saved you from another bad drugstore guess, share it with a friend who's been quietly struggling with the same thing. This shouldn't be something we figure out through trial and error and embarrassment. It should be something we just know, clearly, with real information, the same way we'd expect to know which moisturizer suits dry skin. You deserve comfort, not guesswork. The right lubricant, used the right way, is a small thing that makes a real difference, and it costs almost nothing compared to the discomfort of getting it wrong for years without knowing why. You're not too sensitive. You're not broken. You were probably just never handed the right information until now. One last honest note. Lubricant solves a lot, but not everything. If dryness is severe, constant, or simply doesn't improve no matter what you try, that's worth mentioning to your doctor, since there are additional medical options beyond what any over-the-counter product can offer. For most women, though, the right lubricant, chosen carefully, makes an enormous difference all on its own. Subscribe if you want more honest, practical conversations like this one. I'll see you in the next video.